feels really good to say out loud? Academy Award-winning director Guillermo Del Toro.
This is the 4th nomination for Guillermo Del Toro and his first Oscar win.
Del Toro got a lot of attention this year after winning Best Director and Best Picture for Shape of Water, a movie that even Del Toro fans would say was weird. It was a weird, fishy sex movie. But don't be one of those people who said, his other movies aren't like this when you're trying to convince people to watch his stuff. They are. They're gross, and they're weird, and emotional, and awesome. Just in different variations for all of them. Del Toro can totally freak you out with stuff like Mimic and Kronos. He can show you giant monsters punching the crap out of each other in Pacific Rim and the Hellboy movies, and he can also make you feel all of the feelings with Pan's Labyrinth. Please see Pan's Labyrinth. In my opinion, when Del Toro's movies are centered around children, a sense of strange paranormal wonder, and an atmosphere of harsh parent-killing war, I feel like that's oddly where he's at his best. And that's the best introduction that I can give you into The Devil's Backbone. El Espinazo del Diablo, or The Devil's Backbone, takes place in a secluded orphanage in the final year of the Spanish Civil War. New resident at the orphanage, Carlos, starts to have strange visions and hallucinations about a young boy named Santi who, spoiler alert, is quite dead. Santi warns Carlos that many of the boys in the orphanage will die, which, yeah, soon comes to pass. The school is attacked and the boys must band together to fight back and escape with their lives, all while trying to figure out exactly what Santi wants from them. If there's one thing I'm a little rusty on, it's my Spanish history, but since it's important to the story here, I'll try and give it some context for the time period. The Spanish Civil War ranged from 1936 to 1939, and it was a massive military revolt against the Republic government of Spain by the nationalists who were aided by fascist Germany and Italy. It was seen as kind of a prequel to World War II because a lot of the tactics popularized in that war were first used by the Spanish territories. Most importantly being their aerial combat skills, including dropping bombs.
Vinieron, la desactivaron, y ahí se quedó.
When you first get a good glimpse of the orphanage, one of the first things that you should see is a giant bomb that fell on the orphanage and did not detonate. In case you were wondering what type of movie this was, there is a recently used, deactivated bomb, and children play around it. It's a pretty on-the-nose reminder of the world that these kids live in, that no matter where they are or what they do, they could pretty much die at any moment. It doesn't matter how secluded the orphanage is from the rest of society. In fact, that comes back to become a major, major detriment to the children later in the movie.
Unos niños escapan, pero no te lo aconsejo. El pueblo está un día de camino. De noche hace mucho frío y de día.
Especially because the teachers are hiding gold in the walls and helping out the cause. It's not exactly looking good for these kids.
Esas luces otra vez a lo lejos en el cielo.
La guerra, que no acaba nunca. ¿Por qué mierda de guerra?
This movie throws you pretty much headfirst into a ton of characters at once, so it helps to keep notes like I did. The school's run by a few key people, including Carmen, who makes up for her lack of leg by total unabridged sass.
Parece muy modosito. Seguro que congeniáis.
Snap.
Soy un hombre de ciencia. En este país ha habido siempre mucha superchería.
That's Dr. Cazares, by the way. He's got some amazing speeches, great moments with the kids. He's got this great voice and stage presence, so I affectionately refer to him as Spanish Christopher Lee.
Ahora, márchese.
And of course, can't have a ghost story about kids without talking about the kids themselves. So here's Carlos and the gang. It's kind of hard to remember most of the kids' names, except for the main ones. The only other one that I remember is Owl, because his name is Owl. It's also easy to remember Jaime because he's such a prick at first when you meet him. Once the kids start to bond together, you do get this feeling that all of them do want to protect each other and they do want to make sure that they get out of this situation alive. And it turns into kind of this horror movie Goonies situation where, you know, you got this ragtag group of kids fighting against gold robbers and there are ghosts and spirits all around. Oh my god, it's exactly like the Goonies.
Aunque se enfade, aquí hay un fantasma. El día que cayó la bomba, desapareció un niño, Santi. Desde entonces, nadie se ha vuelto a atrever con Jaime.
I do feel like I have to say this a lot when it comes to movies like this, but the cast of kids is really great. Unless all the kids in a young ensemble are noteworthy or interesting, I get really annoyed when it comes to horror films, which is why movies like this, Super 8, the newest version of It, they really stick out for me, because the fact that these are kids that you care about and you want to see survive really makes it all the more impactful when a lot of them don't. Yeah. If you thought that this movie was going to shy away from the harsh stuff and only have one dead kid in this movie, you were very wrong. This isn't really an uncommon situation for a Del Toro movie, especially if you've seen Pan's Labyrinth. The enemies aren't really the supernatural creatures that lurk in the shadows. It's the villains that are sprung up from war. The human villains that are the most terrifying.
Hubo que romperle los dedos al viejo. Está muerto, es un necio,
Jacinto is one of those people who, when the movie starts, you want to believe has a couple of good qualities about him. I mean, he's got a girlfriend who he treats pretty well. Oh, never mind. Well, you know, he treats the kids okay when he comes up. Oh, never mind. Yeah, this guy's the goddamn worst. He beats the kids up, slices their faces, just genuinely shows disregard for their well-being, and the shit really hits the fan when Carmen and Caceres try to leave the building with the kids. You see him trying to steal the gold that's being used to fight off the rebellion and running off with it, and he will do anything, going so far as to kill kids in order to get it done.
¿Quiénes lo echen falta? Estamos en guerra. Una gotita de agua en medio del mar.
Why are you so evil?
Deal with it.
So let's talk about the ghosts, because, man, Santi is fun to see.
Si estás viva, dime dónde está Santi.
He's obviously the most important one to the story, having this amazing design with the head wound that's just constantly leaking out into the air, almost like his whole body is floating in water, which makes sense when you find out more stuff about him later. But again, Santi isn't really looking to terrorize or harm any of the children, just warn them about the dangers to come. And again, kind of like how Let the Right One In is a story about children first and a story about vampires second, this is a story that is primarily about the children and about their survival, and secondarily, ghosts are involved. And when it's revealed how Santi died and why he died, it's even more of a complex story. He was willing to kill to keep his secret about the gold in the orphanage, but he wasn't actually trying to do it to Santi. That was an accident. I mean, the rope tied around him and the drowning part was his fault, but the head thing before it wasn't. Everything in this movie comes together, and it is all so well told. There's a lot of planting and payoff for a lot of different things. Like, for example, all the characters are interested in collecting slugs. Carlos does it during his first appearance at the orphanage, and at first when he did it, I thought it was meant to show, like, oh, this character is weird and the kids are going to pick on him for it. But Jaime and Santi do it near the pool where Santi died, so really, slugs are foreshadowing in this. And Dr. Cazares has a few things that are constant in his life. He's always reciting poetry. There are a couple scenes where he recites it in private, and then he recites it in person to Carmen right before she dies. It's one of the best scenes of the movie. And he's always listening to his records, whether it be in times of joy or peril. So much so that when he knows he's about to die, he has Carlos bring him up his music collection so he can listen to it while he waits for Jacinto.
Tráeme mis discos, mi música. Los necesito.
And you know, your record collection can say a lot about you. For me, it says I can't get Dance Macabre out of my goddamn head. Also, Cazares' last words to the kids are incredible, saying that he's never going to leave the orphanage, he will not abandon them. And they're completely true, but maybe not in the way he expected them to?
El doctor Casares abrió la puerta. Dijo que me pondría bien y que fuéramos valientes.
He not only helps the kids escape that room, but also escape the school itself in the end, staying behind as a constant moment of pain and torment just like the opening and closing narration says.
Algo muerto que parece por momentos vivo aún. Un sentimiento suspendido en el tiempo.
But wait, what happened to the bad guy? He died, right?
No me jodas.
Miserably. Jacinto's men had had enough of him, and they abandoned him in the orphanage, having not found a single gold piece. That's when Jacinto actually finds all the gold hidden in Carmen's prosthetic leg. And then the kids, knowing that he's alone in the house, lure him down to the pit where Santi was killed, and they just go full Children of the Corn on him, stabbing him with homemade weapons. And in final poetic justice, it is Santi himself who gets the final dibs on him.
Santi.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been carrying so much gold in your pockets, asshole. Also, the child killing thing. His death is so satisfying, and not just because he kind of looks like Eli Roth. This movie is hands down one of my favorites that I've seen in the past few years. It's got fantastic visuals, great characters, it's brutal as all hell. I love movies that have children in them that don't pander to a younger audience and show how brutal some situations have to be, especially in times of war and strife, and this movie succeeds on all fronts. Guillermo Del Toro spent more than 16 years trying to get this movie made, and he said it's his favorite film of his own, and it's not hard to see why. It's just brilliant storytelling from start to finish, with a couple of great shocks here and there. So if you don't have a problem with reading subtitles and you aren't too squeamish about seeing a bunch of kids die, I cannot recommend this movie highly enough. And don't just judge Del Toro based on the fish sex movie. He's got a lot more to offer than that.
Un fantasma. Eso soy yo.
Next time, we're going to close out this year's 13 Days of Halloween by taking a look at my favorite TV show where at least one person died every week. Probably the biggest criteria stretch I'll make with these videos, but I really, really want to talk about this show.